USDA, 24 government agencies. They looked into them. All of them are being targeted and subverted by the Chinese Communist Party.
Holy crap.
And then you talk about the student spies, right? Trump's making a big deal about Harvard right now, saying, you guys are bringing in terrorists and terrorist sympathizers and radicals and Chinese spies and so on. What's the big deal with that?
Okay, guys, we got Josh Phillip here. We are at Student Action Summit, and we're going to talk China today.
Big topic, and it's getting bigger. I'll tell you that.
So what's going on out there? Why should people even care? I guess we should start there, right?
Oh, man. Okay, well, why should they care? That's a big one. China is kind of the missing piece in a lot of the problems we're watching. Whether you care about Ukraine, whether you care about Israel, whether you care about Iran, whether you care about farmland, whether you care about business and intellectual property, whether you care about freedom of speech or Hollywood getting censored or, people, look, Enes Kanter, freedom basketball player, writes a message criticizing Chinese current day slave labor of Uyghurs on his shoe while players are kneeling on the basketball court protesting, like ancient American, at this point, hundreds of years ago, American slavery. And he gets punished for it. So why can he not criticize current day slavery, but every other player can kneel and criticize the United States?
Right.
Every issue has some element, I'd say, of CCP subversion. And even when it comes to government corruption, the whole 9 yards, a lot of my work has been investigating that. In fact, going all the way back to 2008, when my job as investigative reporter started, it was because I found Chinese Communist Party agents trying to influence American elections.
Wow.
And I uncovered Chinese mafia involvement. For a good 5 years, they were threatening to kill me.
Jeez, back in 08?
And this was in the United States. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is in the United States too.
Didn't it just get exposed that 2020 they had something to do with interference?
Yeah. So the thing with that, Kash Patel handed members of Congress research that I guess had been just suppressed. They had a classified human source during the 2020 elections, the FBI, who told them the Chinese Communist Party was planning on shipping counterfeit driver's licenses to the United States, and they were going to use these counterfeit licenses to get fraudulent mail-in ballots.
Right.
And they wanted to defraud the elections. Now, that report was hidden. They covered it up. They're investigating it right now. Congress is making a big deal about it, Republicans at least. And it turns out that while they suppressed it, and they did it apparently because they don't want to make the former head of the FBI look bad because it contradicted his public testimonies, they intercepted an actual shipment of counterfeit fake IDs coming from China that exactly fit in with what they were warned about. But I would actually add to what they're looking at right now based on my research, understand also, in order for the fake IDs to be relevant to rig the election, because they wanted to use those to, again, get fraudulent mail-in ballots, you had to have universal mail-in ballots, you had to have ballot drop-off points, and you had to have a reduced checks and balances on the election. What caused that? Well, COVID-19 and the policies that were created to allow that. How did that happen? The Chinese Communist Party intentionally leaked the virus outside of China because they restricted internal travel, but allowed external travel. And then they told everybody they had everything under control. Then they lied, excuse me. Then they lied to the World Health Organization, and they made the China model, lockdowns, don't leave your house, economic shutdown, a whole 9 yards, the recommended model for handling COVID. And so they kind of set up the whole domino stage for that entire operation.
Wow. Super elaborate, huh?
Yeah, serious.
Jeez, makes you wonder if C-19 was planned from the start for this.
Well, they're investigating that too. We'll see.
Holy crap. That's nuts, man. So you said they were trying to have you killed for 5 years. That was the CCP?
Yes. Well, I don't know if they had operations trying to make it happen, but I had people threatening me, including to my face.
Jeez.
So the way that happened was this. That was 2008, right ahead of the Beijing Olympics. And if you remember what happened at that time, the Chinese Communist Party was facing a global pushback because even a lot of the corporate media were saying, this is the bloody Olympics, right? That was the kind of slogan, the bloody Olympics. And they were saying they're persecuting Christians, they're persecuting Tibetans, they're persecuting Muslims, they're persecuting Falun Gong practitioners. And the, of course, message was this. You had mass protests in China. there were videos coming out of Chinese police.
All right, guys, Sean Kelly here, host of the Digital Social Hour podcast. Just filmed 33 amazing episodes at Student Action Summit. Shout out to Code Health, sponsor these episodes, but also I took them before filming each day. Felt amazing. Just filmed 20 episodes straight and I'm not even tired, honestly. So Code Health, amazing products. I also take these at home, especially when I traveled. I used to get sick every time I flew, and I started taking that. First time, I haven't had a runny nose, knock on wood. One standout element, it's so easy. You got the travel pack here, but you could just take this, fit it in your pocket if you need to. Also, all natural, like only saline solution in there. So you don't got to worry about any crazy side effects or anything. Yeah, Code's unique. With supplements, there's a lot of who knows what's in those ingredients. Code Health, I haven't seen much like this, where it's just based off the codes that are in the saline solution. So I would say they're very unique. It's going to be the future of health and medicine. Code Health has been awesome.
Feel the drop and go code yourself.
Holding the robes of Tibetan Buddhist monks. And it turned out it was exposed. Chinese police were putting on the robes of monks and then causing problems for the cameras. And the cameras were showing what looked like Buddhist monks, like attacking police. But they had videos of the police, again, holding the robes, getting ready to dress up in them. So the problem the CCP had was their normal game of trying to frame people, make fake narratives. It was all being screwed up because media was actually reporting the truth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they do? They started threatening all the Western media. Bloomberg media, one example of this, they told Bloomberg that if you keep covering this, we're going to cut your ability to have Bloomberg financial terminals in China.
Wow.
Because Bloomberg is both a financial organization and a media organization. So they threatened them on the financial side to silence them as a media. They came out and said, we're just not going to really go after this stuff anymore. Some of the other news outlets, some of them on camera were criticizing the CCP. They got shut down. And you had journalists risking getting kicked out of China, entire news outlets risking getting kicked out of China. They went quiet. Then the CCP launched a global media initiative. They did a full takeover of Times Square with Xinhua Media, which is their main state-run news outlet. They launched what's called China Daily, which was the English version of their official Chinese state-run media. Then they started doing paid newspaper inserts in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and a whole bunch of others. And so they started paying media to run inserts of CCP propaganda. So take in mind, this was a massive operation. Then what did they do? It wasn't enough to silence the media. It wasn't enough to suppress people in China and crush, human rights in China.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't enough to do any of that. They also had to silence overseas dissidents. And so what happened? Well, this resulted in what I began investigating. So at the time, I was a very new journalist. I was a reporter. I started with 2006 when I was still a student.
Dang.
And I was just mailing or, sending in articles to newspapers. Epic Times started publishing me as kind of a regular because I was in school going, studying journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Then they offered me a summer internship, 2008. And I was like, yeah, great. I was, student, getting ready to become a journalist, looking into it. There were these big protests in Chinatown in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Flushing, Queens, which is not the official Chinatown, but kind of the real Chinatown. If you go to the end of the 7 train into Queens, that's Flushing.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of stuff there. There were these bizarre incidents, though. You had human rights activists getting attacked en masse by just mobs of people. So you had out there, it was mainly democracy activists and Falun Gong practitioners, and then a handful of Christian, China Christian activists, because, they have this state-run version of Christianity, which is allowed or used to be. They're persecuting that now too. But if you're a house Christian, a real Christian, they persecute you. So you had people in Flushing, because it's a Chinese community, they have booths for human rights and so on.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese Communist Party, it was suspected, was sending agents to go beat them up. And so I was like, well, what's really going on? I went out there and what do I see? You have hundreds of Chinese individuals beating, attacking, spitting on, threatening to kill. You wouldn't believe it. just random other members of the Chinese community.
Wow.
You talk to the police, and what they're being told is, oh, it's just a disagreement among the community. You know what I mean? Because they were being told this.
The tri-light from Therasage is no joke. Medical grade red and near infrared light with 3 frequencies per light, deep healing, real results, and totally portable. It's legit. Photo biomodulation tech in a flexible on-body panel. This is the tri-light from Therasage, and it's next level red light therapy. It's got 118 high-powered polychromatic lights, each delivering 3 healing frequencies, red and near infrared from 580 to 980 nanometers. Optimal penetration, enhanced energy, skin rejuvenation, pain relief, better performance, quicker recovery, and so much more. Therasage has been leading the game for over 25 years, and this panel is FDA listed and USB powered. Ultra soft and flexible and ultra portable. On-body red light therapy I use daily, and I take it everywhere I travel. This is the Thera O3 ozone module from Therasage. It's a portable ozone and negative ion therapy in one. It boosts oxygen, clears and sanitizes the air, and even helps your mood. It's a total game changer at home or on the go. This little device is the Thera O3 ozone module by Therasage, and it's one of my favorite wellness tools. In the sauna, it boosts ozone absorption through your skin up to 10 times. Oxygenating your blood and supporting deep detox. Outside the sauna, it purifies the air, killing germs, bacteria, viruses, and mold, and it improves mood and sleep with negative ion therapy. It's compact, rechargeable, and perfect for travel, planes, offices, hotel rooms, you name it. It's like carrying clean energy wherever you go. This is a Thera H2 Go from Therasage, the only bottle with molecular hydrogen structured water and red light in one. It hydrates, energizes, and detoxes water upgraded. The Thera H2 Go from Therasage isn't just a water bottle, it's next level hydration. It infuses your water with molecular hydrogen, one of the most powerful antioxidants out there. That means less oxidative stress, more energy, and faster recovery. But here's what makes it stand out. It's the only bottle that also structures your water and adds red light to supercharge it. It's sleek, portable, and honestly, I don't go anywhere without it.
So I'm looking into it, and what do I find? Well, people are telling me, hey, the guys attacking us, they're all Chinese spies. And my concept of spies at the time, I'm thinking like James Bond. You know what I mean? That was what I thought a spy was. I'm thinking like Mission Impossible. And I'm like, I look at these guys, and there's guys in wife beaters looking like they haven't showered in a week. You know, like they have like 3 beard strands. You know, like they look all scraggly. I'm like, that is not a spy. Come on. You know, I've seen the movies. I know what a spy looks like. And they're like, no, those are spies. And so I start watching, and I start doing investigative journalism. I start noticing patterns. The groups coming out and protesting against the the human rights activists, they have banners like, the things on it, but then they have the name of organizations. So it's like Fujian American Association, Shandong Association, Peking Association, things like that. I'm like, man, what are these? I find out these are what are called tongs, Tongs. And they're like fraternal organizations that run, they're like the unofficial government of the Chinese communities. I come to find out the CCP has an entire operation to control them. Not all of them are controlled by the CCP, but they have an entire branch of their government that works on controlling. It's called the United Front Work Department. And then I find out the ones coming out, they're all the pro-CCP ones. It turns out one of the main ones involved, the Fujian American Association, they invite Chinese officials all the time to come speak. And I find out they're also tied to the Chinese mafia.
Wow.
They're tied in what's called the Fuqing gang. This is bigger than the Italian mafia. They're one of the biggest transnational organized crime groups in the world. They're human traffickers, drug traffickers, and like they're known. In fact, one of the biggest human trafficking operations ever uncovered, which was the Golden Venture, which was a human trafficking ship ran aground off the coast of New York, hit ground, people, again, jumped off frigid waters, people died. It was a human rights disaster. That was the Fuqing gang.
Wow.
And so I'm like, man, what did I get myself into? What did I get myself into? Then I find out the head of the Chinese consulate at the time, Peng Kaiyu, is meeting with them and encouraging them. And so I find out the CCP is orchestrating this. And then what do I find out? Why are the police being told stand down? It's just a disagreement of the community. I find out these organizations and the heads of them are part of the police advisory board. And they're the ones, the people doing it are telling the police, oh, it's just a disagreement. And so that led into a crazy long investigation where I started reporting on what turned out to be one of the largest Chinese operations to infiltrate the United States.
Jeez.
Influence elections, bribe public.
I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the show a lot with the algorithm. Thank you.
Officials, you name it. And I mean, they threatened to kill me to my face multiple times. I got surrounded multiple times. I mean, people telling me I'm going to kill you. I had a contact who was a house Christian. He told, and a democracy activist, he told me that they told him that they hired a hitman to chop off one of his hands.
Holy
and
crap.
he woke up, they had slashed the tires of his car. I reported on it, and I basically said, all right, if they do it, everyone's going to know it was them. Well, and they ended up not doing it. But that's the kind of stuff I uncovered.
Wow.
And over the course of time, I mean, that led into my career as a journalist. And it's just snowballed from there into what I do now, which is just investigating the full picture of everything they're doing. I don't think the country realizes how big of an issue this is. We, in my opinion, risk losing our government while maintaining the surface image of our government if this is allowed to continue.
Crazy. Have they infiltrated politics within the U.S.?
They have. Massively. Massively.
Also,
I'll give you one example. So you probably, in fact, I'll be talking about this on stage today just a little bit. I only have 8 minutes. It's like short, but a little bit. I'll give you a few examples. So you've heard about the Chinese farmland, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's probably heard about that by now. People are saying, well, why are they buying these farms? Why are they doing that? Why would China care about having farmland? And people are saying, well, do they want to mess with our food supply? There was that weird incident where Chinese nationals were found smuggling what's called an agricultural bioweapon. It was a fungus that could have destroyed our crops. That was a big deal. Was that the idea? Well, they wouldn't really need to buy land to do that unless they wanted to, like, I don't know, grow it or something like that. You know, maybe they could have it spread, or maybe they could, I don't know, bring in like avian flu or swine flu if they have a pig or, bird farm or something like that. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe they're building it by military bases and they want to spy on the U.S. military. That's an issue too. If you were to ask me, I'd say all of the above and more. There was actually a congressional report last year, and members of Congress were investigating, and this was during the Biden administration, so Republicans were leading this,
right?
And it became partisan, unfortunately. But last year, Congress launched an investigation of Chinese subversion of the U.S. government. And they looked at 24 different agencies, and they had the heads of different agencies come and testify before Congress. Among them was the head of the USDA. And what was raised during this was, one, the Chinese Communist Party is actively trying to influence the USDA. Two, the USDA is not guarded against this because in their eyes, we need China as a trading partner. Three, they have training programs, trade programs that have basically no security. And four, they find out China is, in fact, buying up land. These are being cleared for purchase. It's allowed to go through. It represents not just a national security threat in terms of espionage, but they said in that report, China's plan was to control the American food supply for two reasons. One being China, they have problems of pollution. Their black soil regions, which is their main farmland, it's becoming too polluted and the black soil is going away. They're dealing with deserts moving in. They can't grow crops. They actually relinquished their programs many years ago on grain self-sufficiency.
Wow. They
can't grow enough food to support themselves. Then they have water pollution. They have swine flu and they have avian flu. And they don't really, they're more like they eat a lot of chicken, they eat a lot of pork, you know what I mean? And so swine flu, avian flu, that's like a big part of their meat production. So what do they have to eat? Well, they need to buy it. And so that's why they're buying up through Belt and Road Initiative. They're taking over natural resources. They're buying up farmland in Africa and Latin America, and they're buying it up in the United States. And so the issue is they're growing food here and sending it to China, partly. But the concern raised in that report is if they continue expanding it, that they will weaponize the American food supply because they've done it in other countries.
Really?
They control a lot of the food already in like Africa, a lot of the natural resources. They do this on another side with rare earth minerals where they have a global monopoly on, it's not all in China, it's the international mines. And they've gotten a lot of that through bribery, through the One Belt and Road Initiative and that kind of stuff. And then they use it strategically to control the countries. Russia does that with energy, for example, another side of it. And so they were saying that China was planning to do that with their food supply. But while people are focused on, man, that's a big deal, farmland, what was not paid attention to was Congress investigated 23 other U.S. agencies, and they had the exact same problems.
Wow.
24, and if you count again USDA, 24 government agencies, they looked into them. All of them are being targeted and subverted by the Chinese Communist Party.
Holy crap.
And then you talk about the student spies, right? Trump's making a big deal about Harvard right now, saying, you guys are bringing in terrorists and terrorist sympathizers and radicals and Chinese spies and so on. What's the big deal with that? Well, going back to 2008 in my work, one of the other things I uncovered was China was putting in student organizations. They have Chinese student organizations. One of the major ones I was investigating was the CSSAs, the Chinese Student and Scholar Associations. And these are funded by the consulates, operated by the consulates in their own writing. This isn't like rumor. They state it on their own websites. In fact, they're run by an official branch of the Chinese Communist Party and then operated through the consulates. So we have, aside from the Confucius Institutes and the little red schools, which are the more things people are paying attention to, state-funded, state-operated organizations at American universities, and it's most of them, including Harvard, by the way. And what do these organizations do? Well, it's students, it's professors, it's faculty members, and it's members of the Chinese community, which is the CCP side of it, not the human rights and dissident side of it, which is, I would say, the more representative side of Chinese people, right? So in other words, it's the Chinese Communist Party. It's the Tongs, like I mentioned earlier, tied in with the gangs and so on. It's those guys tied in with the spy operations. It's the consulates that run every other piece that I've been talking about, operating that as well. And what do? They oversee the students' growth. And so if you're a Chinese student, and some of them forcibly enroll you. So if you come here to study from China, some of them forcibly enroll you. You're part of it whether you like it or not.
Wow.
They monitor other Chinese students. And so some people might say, well, isn't this mean to Chinese students? No. It's mean that you let this exist, because these guys watch the other Chinese students. If you come from China and you study and you go to a Christian human rights event, they will punish you.
Wow.
They will monitor, they will report you, they will punish you. If you go to an event about live organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners, which is like a religion in China based on truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, just people trying to be good people, and they're killed for it, and they use them as live sources of organ transplants, and they're starting to do other groups as well. It's in particular people from the Xinjiang region. If you go to one of their events, they will report you, they will punish you or your family. Your entire future is ruined. You can't get a job and so on. But even beyond that, they might want to put you in a research program. So maybe there's a state-funded, which, of course, our government funds a lot of research programs at universities. Maybe the Pentagon has a program, which they do. Maybe there's a medical program, which they have. They'll tell you to get into it. And the faculty members might help facilitate it. The faculty members part of the CSSA might give you the good word. The other ones might sign on a document, say, get him into this. He's a star student. But it's all spies, effectively. They get you in, and then they have you steal it and bring it back to China. And so you've committed theft of a government-funded research program at a university. And people pay attention to that. But the worst part, the even worse part of it is this. Some of the programs don't just have you return to China, as they call it. Some of them have you do what they call serving in place. And what does that look like? They might say, we need a spy in the CIA. We need an insider. They might say, we need a spy in the Justice Department. We need a spy in the USDA. We need a spy to run for office, maybe become a government official, maybe run for city council. And they will grow you. And the community organizations, the Tongs, will act as the votes. They'll act as the ones maybe getting the driver's licenses from China so they can rig the elections. They'll work as the ones busing people around to vote at multiple polling stations, which I reported on them doing and I witnessed them doing in New York City.
Wow.
That kind of stuff. And so they'll push you up. They'll fund you. They'll do everything. And what does that mean for the United States? It means that you have people in our government who are not representing the American people. They're representing the Chinese Communist Party. For example, they could trigger an investigation into an organization they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
They could go after a human rights organization. They could, for example, try to promote a political policy that they want passed. They could crush something they don't want passed. They can maybe falsify criminal charges against you and go after you. They could launch an investigation into you if they're with if they get an agent in the FBI.
Mm.
They can do all of that stuff. They can weaponize our government on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, and that happens. I'll give you a direct example of that. In New York City, one of the organizations that's being just barraged by attacks like this is Shenyun Performing Arts. They have pieces depicting the persecution of Falun Gong. They also promote Chinese traditional culture, which the CCP has been trying to crush. And so human rights issues, the culture the CCP has tried to destroy, which represents, I'd say, the real Chinese people.
Mm-hmm.
So one example that happened, a Chinese spy was arrested because he was trying to bribe an IRS agent to take away the nonprofit status of Shenyun.
Wow.
Right? Turned out the IRS agent was in fact an undercover FBI agent, so they arrested the Chinese spy trying to do it. They get bomb threats, death threats. Every time they have a program, even for example, in Washington, D.C., at like the Kennedy Center, they get bomb threats. They have to evacuate it. If you have government officials attending, it's a national security threat. Taiwan intelligence services actually got involved in investigating this, and they actually reported that they traced the bomb threats and death threats to an organization tied to Huawei in China.
Wow.
And so the CCP is doing this. Then you have New York Times doing hit pieces on them. You have, for example, people trying to trigger legal investigations. And then we look into it, what's happening? Well, one of the main New York Times reporters, her father is tied in with one of the Chinese tongs. He denies it, but he's on their websites. One of the guys triggering the investigations, another guy in the local community, it turns out he has multiple major businesses in China that are publicly listed, including with the Chinese government. And so how do we not recognize that as people, tied in with, and then of course, they're interviewing about 10 people, right? In the New York Times articles, about 10 people making all these accusations. They have 1,500 people signed a petition, right? As part of the Shenyun and school, because there's a university there, saying that, no, this is all lies. They're not interviewing those 1,500 people. They're interviewing 10 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this is an example being raised of how that if you get a few people of interest, whether they're direct or indirect to the CCP, they can orchestrate things to take down anybody, to destroy anybody. And even aside from the human rights thing, what are we talking about? Hollywood could be censored. Free speech can be censored. We already talked about them silencing media. A lot of media do not dare talk about human rights because if you do, you get kicked out of China. You might say, well, don't they criticize Xi Jinping a little bit? Yeah, you're allowed to a little bit, but they have what they call no-go topics. You can't talk about the 5 no-go topics: persecution of Falun Gong, of course, live organ harvesting, which now they're increasing the number of organ harvesting facilities by 3-fold in Xinjiang right now. You can't talk about Taiwan independence. You can't talk about Hong Kong democracy. You can't talk about persecution of Christians, and you can't talk about persecution of Tibetans. A little bit Christians because they try to reel it back because they know it's a soft point for the United States. And so, they can criticize other things, but there's no-go topics. And that's where the line is. That's how the game is played. What happens with businesses? If a business were to talk about the true GDP of China, if an auditing organization were to audit a Chinese company, in China, they get investigated for espionage and they get thrown in prison and possibly killed. There have been multiple cases of this.
Wow.
It violates the espionage laws. So you can't even audit their companies. How are they publicly traded if you can't audit them? Right? Crazy.
Crazy.
How is it that they can tell Hollywood that, what they can or can't include in our movies? If you want to get a movie into China and they need the Chinese market because of budgets these days, you have to co-produce it with China.
Wow.
You can't show the CCP in a negative light. You can't show the U.S. military in a positive light, which you wonder where patriotism went in films. You have to have at least one scene filmed in China. You have to have at least one Chinese actor. That's the way it used to be. They kind of reeled some of that back. And then you have to have what are called core socialist values. You have to have core socialist values, communist messaging, if you want to have the Chinese market. So they control Hollywood through that. If you talk about business, I mentioned NBA, Enes Kanter Freedom, punished for even criticizing slavery. Crazy.
And he was a good player too.
He was a fantastic. How do you possibly have that? Even aside from that, you have American businesses lobbying our government on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, working as lobbyists for a foreign government. Now, if you or I did that, we'd have to register as foreign agents. They're allowed to do it.
Yeah.
And if you look at now we've talked about a lot of pieces. Everybody talks about a different piece of this big picture. Nobody talks about the whole thing. And look at this as a whole. Look at the spies. Look at the people trying to bribe our government. The Tongs, the other thing they do is they have what they call liaison work, and they try to bribe and blackmail government officials and public leaders. So one of the goals of that big Chinese spy operation I uncovered back in 2008, the United Front Work Department, they talk about what they call it taking over the civil society. The thinking is you have your official government. In America, what constitutes our government? The Constitution, right? It lays out how the elections are run, how Congress works, the branches of government, everything, right? It's all in the Constitution. That's our government, technically. But what runs it? The civil society, elected officials, and then they say people of influence, YouTubers, people on TikTok now, even influencers, journalists, business leaders, entertainment industry, Hollywood, and so on. That's your civil society. So what do? They try to take over the civil society. What do you see happening? China has a program right now where they're getting any YouTuber with over 300,000 followers and they're trying to invite them to China. They're paying TikTokers to go to China for propaganda tours. They're brainwashing them, right? They're doing propaganda tours. They're living in the Truman Show.
Yeah.
It's not the real China. They're living in the Truman Show.
Did you see that I Show Speed campaign?
Yeah.
Do you think that was a paid campaign?
I don't know if they'd have to pay him. I think he'd have enough money where they wouldn't have to. But without a doubt, I don't think he did it intentionally.
Yeah.
But without a doubt, they would. That's part of a broader operation.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying he's doing it, but there's a campaign doing that right now from China.
Yeah.
And so he's part of that, whether he likes it or not, because that's an operation they're running right now.
That one was effective. Their visa applications shot up that week.
Yeah. And so if they can get those videos on TikTok, they can promote them because it's their algorithms. We found that they're doing this on YouTube, and we found YouTube recently, they're also suppressing the anti-CCP voices. Guys like Lao Y86. Lao Y86 came out, did an investigation. He doesn't talk about anything other than like China. So how is he getting censored on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
He's getting throttled. He has videos that have like 300,000, 400,000 views, and they're getting not promoted. And then you have videos with like, I don't know, 0 followers, 12 followers,
he shot up
100 views, and they're getting pushed to the top of the algorithm that are pro-CCP.
Wow.
And it wasn't just him. Lao Y86, China Uncensored, any big critic of the CCP, they're all getting suppressed right now, while all the ones that are pro-CCP or showing propaganda are getting pushed up.
Yeah.
That's that side of it. Then what do you have? You have, of course, journalists getting invited to China for tours and so on. If your media is in China, you can't talk. You're already in there. You're already under their thumb.
Yeah.
You get kicked out if you don't play the game. That's just how it is. They have government officials. They bribe them. They blackmail them. They get them in honey traps, the whole 9 yards, and they try to subvert them and control them. Business leaders are the worst, and foreign investors are the worst because it's all financial interest in business deals. So they pour things into China, then the CCP uses it to control them. Mm-hmm. If you're a tech company, you go to China, you have to hand over your source code.
Yeah.
If you're a big company, you have to create a Chinese Communist Party cell in your company. Part of the agreements is you even have to give the sons, they call them princelings of like Chinese officials, advisory roles or whatever else in your business. You have to lobby our government on their behalf. Understand what that means, and you look at the whole picture. They're taking over the civil society. They're making our government, our laws, our government branches. I named 24 of them, but that report that even came out last year showing it. Our influencers, our journalists, our entertainment industry, our sports, Even the voices that would call out human rights abuses, our values, they're persecuting religions, they're persecuting Christians. We don't even make a big deal about it. What do we even stand for at this point? We let them target even entertainment organizations like Shen Yun in the United States, and there's nothing really being done to stop that. Not only that, but some of the investigations that we know are triggered by people with massive CCP ties are being allowed to move forward. And they're going after them now. It's going to be someone else after.
Crazy.
They're creating systems where they can do anything by manipulating our system of government. And that's the big picture of it.
Yeah. Thanks for opening my eyes. Thanks for opening the audience's eyes. Where can people find you and support you, man?
So I do a show called Crossroads. It's on YouTube and on Epic Times. It's Crossroads with Joshua Phillip. So you can find me on YouTube. Twitter is Josh J. Phillip, but I'm also senior investigative reporter with Epic Times or Epoch Times. And if you're a student, actually we do free subscriptions for students.
Oh wow! Thank you, man. Thanks.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thanks for your time. Yeah, check them out, guys. See you next time.